this time, I'd like to call to the podium the former chair of this conference and delegate at large, Steve Wall, the immediate past president of the State Bar, Mark Adelman, and his family. Please come forward.
Let's get Mark Adelman and his family. I know Mark's in the back of the room. Aaron and the children. They're coming. Ladies and gentlemen, Mark Adelman and his family. It is with great pleasure that I present the following resolution to you. I'm a delegate at large this year, but I have a feeling in my heart that I'm speaking for all of the lawyers of the state of California. Whereas the Conference of Delegates acknowledges the courageous effort made by State Bar President Mark Adelman during the past year in representing the attorneys of California, including this Conference of Delegates, under the most adverse of circumstances. And whereas the dignity, grace, persistence, and civility with which Mark Adelman conducted himself is an example of the highest form of advocacy to which many of us aspire and very few achieve. And whereas, on a personal note, Mark Adelman and his family, standing next to me, have sacrificed much and have done so unselfishly and unstintingly. And whereas, when the State Bar overcomes the constant attacks that it now faces, and it will, the lawyers of California will owe much to the foundation laid by Mark Adelman. Therefore, be it resolved that the 1998 Conference of Delegates commends Mark Adelman for a job well done, and unanimously thanks him for being a lawyer's lawyer under the most trying of circumstances. You were there for us when we needed you, Mark. We will never forget it. This is a service to all of the lawyers of California. And there is a second to this motion at microphone 5.
Thank you, Mr. Speaker. Todd Stevens, President-elect of the San Diego County Bar Association, speaking on behalf of the San Diego County Bar Association, who proudly second this resolution. Mark's a local boy. He was a president of our association a few years ago, whose shoes I hope to follow in. And we proudly watched Mark this year and fought dignifiedly against the attacks against this bar. And we know that next year we're going to get a dues bill. And we thank Mark and also the family, Aaron and his 2 children, who gave up so much to allow Mark to literally move away from San Diego and move to Sacramento. And Mark, we welcome you back to San Diego where you belong. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Todd. Since I kind of enjoy this role of acting chair, this really is a ball getting back up here. The chair will recognize Mr. Jim Seff at microphone 1.
Thank you, Mr. Acting Chair. I'm James Seff of the Bar Association of San Francisco, speaking for my delegation and for myself. This year I have had the distinct honor of working closely with Mark under the most difficult circumstances which all of you know and all of you appreciate. I think Mark and I probably spent the better part of a week and a half on the telephone together this year. And I heard more about what Mark put himself through on our behalf than most of us will ever likely know. I can tell you that friend and foe in Sacramento alike recognize that Mark is a man of the highest integrity, dignity, honor, and strength. And without a person of all of those qualities, we would be in much deeper trouble than we are today. Indeed, I think this conference and this state bar owes to Mark Adelman the fact that we are still in existence as a unified bar today, because but for his efforts, we would be a far different creature, and you would be up here, the conference, we would be up here meeting on our own, and we would have no contact or no possibility of future contact with the State Bar. It's always chancy to quote Shakespeare in a group like this, but let me chance it, because he really had a way with words, that guy. Mark, what Mark Anthony said about Brutus applies as well to you. His life was gentle, and the elements so mixed in him that nature might stand up and say to all the world, this was a man.
Thank you very much, Mr. Seff. The acting chair will recognize the president of the Orange County Bar Association at microphone 3.
Thank you. Ed Connor, President of the Orange County Bar Association. I think I do speak on behalf of my delegation and my entire Bar Association. It is a daunting task to try to praise Mark when one considers that the job of being State Bar President is a full-time job in and of itself. But when you subject that job to a crisis of epic proportions, nobody in this room, I think, can fathom the depth and the breadth of the personal sacrifices which Mark and his family made last year on our behalf. Nobody, I think, can imagine what a solo practitioner went through on our behalf last year. But the Orange County Bar Association will remember Mark for something much different than what he did with the State Bar dues crisis. We, in fact, will not think of him so much as the bloodied, battle-scarred general who tried to save his fort and his troops. Instead, we will think and remember Mark as the individual, the bar leader, who encouraged us and inspired us to address the unmet legal needs of poor children. A year ago this time, when we were in San Diego, Mark gave a call to ask all of us to try to look at helping underprivileged, underrepresented children up and down the state. And I am proud to say that the Orange County Bar Association did heed that call, and we developed a program called Attorneys Representing Children, the ARC project, we call it affectionately. And that program is a volunteer attorney program that served the needs of disabled kids with SSI appeals, with children with special education needs, guardianship needs, and now we're rolling out an uncontested adoption program for this Christmas. But the fact of the matter is that Mark never, ever passed up an opportunity to promote our program, to encourage us, and to say he was proud of our efforts. And therefore, what we need to focus on is our project and other projects that I know other bar associations also did will live on beyond the end of this term and will be a lasting legacy and a very, very fitting tribute to a man who, in the midst of rack and ruin, of gory battles with the governor, of the pain of dismantling the State Bar, of the agony of dispersing the family of employees of the State Bar, never lost sight of his true dream, which was to help the most innocent victims in our society, and those are disabled children and children in poverty. So, Mark, we salute you. We wish the best for you and your family. We pray that the Lord will finally allow you to stop playing the role of Job in the Bible. And we do thank you from the bottom of our heart for showing us what we can be when we try to be the best in our profession by volunteering our time to help others. Thank you, Mark.
Thank you, Ed. There's a final speaker at microphone 4, Mr. Tom Warwick from San Diego and member of the Board of Governors.
Good morning. I want to thank all of you for giving me a couple of minutes to speak about Mark. To quote, I believe Winston Churchill, although I've never been able to confirm this, there's a comment that there are no extraordinary people. There are only ordinary people who can do ordinary things for extraordinary long periods of time. Mr. Edelman did that over the past year. I got the opportunity to, our offices are a block apart, go over to his office, and I saw him turning down the cases because he couldn't adequately represent the client based upon the demands of the State Bar. I saw him trying to juggle the needs of his family and trying to make his daughter's recital up at the Del Mar Fair so that he could be present and yet still deal with the State Bar. I heard the stories of him spending, after the veto occurred, 18 hours on a train ride with his son back from Sacramento, the entire time on a phone, trying to figure some way to resolve this particular issue. Mr. Edelman gave up his life, gave up his practice, but he never gave up his integrity. Throughout the entire time, I spoke to many of the people from the Assembly and the Senate, and to a person. They all said that the bar should be proud of the person that they sent up here for them to punish. Every one of them said, "We are so sorry that Mark Edelman had to be the person to bear the brunt of this." His enemies, and they were clearly his enemies in this fray, had nothing but laudatory comments about the way he conducted himself. Mark is the highest, the best, the brightest, the most courteous, the most, I guess the least user of the first person singular pronoun of any lawyer I've ever met. I would say to you also that Dr. Kenny, his wife, who's an expert in her own field, should be applauded. I had the occasion to speak with her on numerous occasions, and the sacrifices she made, the loss of the love that they share between them, and the companionship that Mark had to forego to try to do what was right for you, was incredible. This is an incredible first family. This is an incredible person, and he is extraordinary. And I hope all of you will recognize, as all of the legislatures recognize the incredible person we sent to represent us. I only wish the governor of the state of California would have met with him once to maybe have some understanding communicated to him by our president and maybe have saved the day. Mr. Edelman, Dr. Kenny, I'm proud to follow you, but I'll never succeed you as the District 9 representative, and I hope all of you will take the lead that Mark and Dr. Kenny have set forth in how an attorney and how a supportive spouse should act in situations like this. Thank you.
Thank you, Tom. All in favor of the motion, please rise.
I just want to say one word about Mark, and this is a personal note, and for me it's the ultimate comment. Mark is one of us. When, as you heard, when he spoke to this conference last year, he asked us to use our talents as lawyers to help children. And that is an idea in the true spirit of this conference. We're not here to make a buck. We're here to use our skills and our training to improve the law, make the world a better place, make California a better place. And Mark's area was children's issues. It's unfortunate that more couldn't have been done for children this year. But since that sentiment is in the true spirit of this conference, I'm extending an invitation to Mark, not to put him on the spot, to join me next year where I know I will be as a delegate on the floor of this conference. And he accepts. The next matter before the House, Resolution 11-4. Or no, have we debated 11? No, we're debating 11-4. 11-4 amends Code of Civil Procedure Section 2025 to allow the court to extend the time for review and correction of a deposition Excuse me, I'm sorry. And I knew that was coming.